Okay. So today we have verses 51, 52, and 53 lined up of chapter 18. I'll start with verse number 51. I will chant Buddhaya Vishuddhaya Yuktu Dhritayatmanam Niyamya Cha Shabdadin Vishayans Tyaktva Ragadvesho Vyudasya Cha. So, the verse translates to endowed with a very pure intellect, controlling the self with firmness, relinquishing sound and other objects, renouncing attraction and hatred. So, actually, all the set of verses today, 51, 52, and 53, are in continuation, but we will split it. So I could have taken them together, but it is better to translate and discuss each one separately. So, the verse will continue. All right. So, let's take this up word by word. Buddhaya. Buddhi is intellect. Buddhaya becomes by intellect. Vishuddhaya. So Shuddhi is pure. Vishuddhaya becomes very pure. Yukta, when you are united or endowed with. Dhritya, by dhriti. Atmanam, of oneself. Niyamya is having controlled or having disciplined, what we were just discussing about the discipline of even attending the sessions, right? Cha and shabdadin, sound, etc. Vishan, sense objects. Tyaktva, having relinquished. Rag, dvesha, is love and hatred. Rag is what you like and dvesh is what you don't like, so love and hatred. Vyudasya, having renounced. Cha and. So the verse translates to endowed with a very pure intellect, controlling the self with firmness, relinquishing sound in other objects, renouncing attraction and hatred. So let's chant it together. Buddhaya Vishuddhaya Yukto Dhrityatmanam Niyamacha Shabdadin Vishayan Tyaktva Ragadvesho Vidusya Cha. So, what we have discussed so far is what Lord Krishna has explained to us, that how by performing our duties in accordance with our nature, we attain perfection, right, in whatever we are doing. Now, once that means we are not adding to a baggage, we have become actionless, which does not mean not doing action, it is performing actions without adding to the baggage. So, once our minds have been purified, we move forward on our journey to reach the Brahman, or we intelligently regulate our lives' activities. So, now look, what is happening in the world? What is happening in our life when we contact? I would like inputs from you guys. So, when you contact the world, what is happening? This is something that we had done in chapters 3 and 4 and 5.
Rag and Dvesh happen.
How? When you contact the world, how does Rag and Dvesh happen?
You like the situation, the person, the object, or you don't like the person situation.
Actually, at the gross level, what's happening? What is happening when you're contacting the world?
Our senses are searching for what they want for satisfaction. So our senses are getting a lot of,
Stimulation.
stimuli. Yeah.
So, what is happening is that the stimuli is entering us, right?
Yes.
So, what is happening when we are contacting the world? The stimuli is entering us through the organs of perception, the Gyan Indriyas.
Yes.
Hearing, feeling. So this is, so before we come to Rag, Dvesh and all that, we have to understand what's happening when we are contacting the world. So we hear, we feel, we see, we taste, we smell, right? Then the mind is interpreting these stimuli.
Yes.
And this is happening based on our likes and dislikes. So now the rag dvesh is coming. That's the next step, because rag dvesh will happen with something which enters you. I mean, right?
Yes.
Now the mind uh, functions on likes and dislikes, right? Whereas the intellect, which is the higher function, it evaluates and it determines the correct response into the world, right? So whatever stimuli is entering us, this is at the very, very physical level when we are trying to understand our equipment, our body, mind, and intellect. So this is being interpreted by, firstly, by the mind. So the mind handles it in its own way. It sends a signal to the intellect. Intellect evaluates and should be evaluating whether the response being prepared by the mind is okay or not, needs correction, and then the response goes out into the world. And how do we respond into the world?
By a reaction, either
How
anger
do those
or
take
love.
place?
Yeah, again, by the senses, we use the senses to do something. And action are
Organs, yeah.
organs
See,
of
just
action.
don't be in a hurry. See, because now we are reaching the end of the chapter and actually end of the text. So we should understand. So organs of action are now getting activated.
Okay.
So the response into the world is always through the organs of action. The stimuli is entering through the Gyanindriya, and the response back into the world is going out through the Karmindriya. And all this now is happening 24 by 7, like a factory making raw material. It processes them and churns them out into the finished product, out into the packing department. So Lord Krishna is now enumerating the values that should become our way of life, so that we can transact better in the world and continue on our spiritual journey. This means it's like the quality department, through in and through all the processes that the factory is doing. Some are proactive and some are reactive. We are talking here mostly about the proactive processes. So these three verses today, 51, 52, and 53, actually list the 12 divine qualities that we must inculcate. These qualities are the foundation for the process of self realization. They help us purify our mind. Without perfect command over these qualities, God cannot be attained. So, that liberation or moksha that we are talking, nirvana, whatever, it will not be there. Just as when the mirror is pure, the reflection is clear, not otherwise. Similarly, when the mind and the intellect is purified by these qualities, the self is spontaneously revealed. So, effort is only towards the cultivation of those qualities which purify the mind, and this is the sadhana, right? So, that is what we, and it has to be inculcated by ourselves. Someone else cannot inculcate it for you, right? So, this discipline, this sadhana has to be done by ourselves for ourselves. And these are the practices of the Karma Yoga at the level of the body, the path of action, Bhakti Yoga at the level of the mind, the path of devotion, Gyan Yoga, the at the level of the intellect, the path of knowledge. So these are the practices which help us in our own purification. Now, if you recollect chapter 5, the seeker starts with as on the path of action as a karma yogi or as a yogi, and the following the path of action, he starts shedding the vasanas and reducing their desires. So whatever we recapped in the previous set of verses, 47, 48, 49, 50, we were actually talking about the path of action. In brief, in summary, as one has been mentioning again and again, that chapter 18 is a summary of the entire chapters that we have covered in the Bhagavad Gita so far. So, following the path of action, the mind becomes quiet, we become introverted, we can withdraw and renounce the world, and then we are available for sitting down for contemplation. Without that, we are not really contemplating, because our mind in 1 nanosecond is drawn to the world, right? And this state, we are sannyasis. Sannyas, as one again has been discussing, is the effect. I mean, you don't have to work towards it. It's not the cause. Renunciation is the cause. Sorry, this thing, the action, the path of action results in sannyas, right? And then we are capable of moving on to the jnana yoga, or the path of knowledge. And then we can meditate, and we ultimately reach the final stages of self realization. So what is happening in these this thing is that at the sense level, we are checking the indulgence of our senses into the objects of the world. So we are riding our sense organs as to the sense organs riding us, and we are seeing oneness across the universe. We start believing in the oneness principle. So we get beyond name and form, and we start seeing oneness across the board. Then we see God in everything that we contact, the world. All the stimuli that reach enter us are from the world, from through God. So the qualities that we are discussing are not for theory, and that is something that we have to understand. If we treat them and continue to treat them as theoretical knowledge, it will remain theory. So we will know everything, but we would not have internalized anything. So it's like pouring water down a duck's back. It does not affect us. Book is one side and we are another side. That is why it is very, very important to internalize these values, disciplines, qualities. So let's start with the qualities. So the first one is buddhaya vishuddhaya yukta, or endowed with a very pure intellect. So in this chapter, the verses 29 to 35, we covered the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic buddhi or intellect, and sattvic, rajasic, tamasic dhriti or steadfastness, or the force and motive for all action, which propels not only activity but also controls it. So both activity and its control and the direction it should take. Now, pure buddhi is an intellect which is without vasanas. We have unloaded our vasanas. So, we are rid of the pleasure seeking activities or tendencies. That is being referred to as Vishuddhaya, very pure. Now, clarity of thought is the main connect to the knowledge of the self. When the intellect is clear, the goal setting is also clear. That you know what I have to do, what I have to choose on a day, and what I have to reject on a day. So that goal setting is very clear. So the seeker fixes self realization as a goal for oneself and sets the direction for the mind and body to follow. Right? So this is the what is meant by Vishuddhiya Buddhiya. Then dhriti. So the words being used are dhritayatmanam niyamam, niyameya, or having controlled oneself through firmness. Dhriti, we understood in this chapter, is the steadfastness which keeps the constituent elements of our body active and focused towards a particular goal. It is the firmness and consistency to pursue on a path till the goal is attained, or the ability to keep holding on to the goal even when we are fatigued or when we are in a state where the choices to remain on the path are becoming difficult. So even then, because of our dhriti, we continue on the path that we have chosen for ourselves. No one else has imposed it for us. So this steadfastness or determination comes from possessing a resolute intellect. So when the higher goal is pursued by the intellect, the determination with which the goal is sought brings the mind under the control of the intellect. And then all the feelings and emotions are directed towards the goal, and the seeker is able to practice self control at the mental level. And in meditation, the final stage of contemplating or sitting and thinking of the Lord, in meditation, which is meditation, so there the sense organs and an uncontrolled mind are the two main distractors. And therefore, in verse 42, we had talked about that these should be controlled and brought to the state of Shama, serenity. And how we do it is Damaha, through Damaha, self restraint. So these were the qualities of the Brahmin caste, if you recollect. We were talking about the caste system in those verses, set of verses. So once this has been done, the seeker in meditation becomes invulnerable. That means the seeker is not uh, immediately swept away by the world or some sound distracts the person. So, or is not affected by the stimuli entering through the organs of perception. And then the word second line, first word is Shabd Adin Vishayan Styaktvaha. That means having relinquished sound and other sense objects. So, controlling the sense organs with mind under control, the body does not harbor indiscriminate sensual indulgences. They relinquish their craving for the world, leading to self control at the physical level. So, certain activities you will need to perform for your bodily maintenance, such as eating, sleeping, these also are held in wisely in balance. Also, kindly remember that self control is not self denial. Self control is intelligent abstinence from anything that obstructs the journey on the set path. Then we come to the word rag dveshu vyudasya. In such a state, we have obviously abandoned likes and dislikes. Again, abandoning likes and dislikes is not something that we seek, it happens as a result of the detachment. When we are no longer affected by the transactions and the happenings around us, we do our obligatory duty and move on. So, this leads to freedom from desires and vasanas. So, we are going to talk about 12 qualities in these three set of verses. So, four have been covered, right? Moving on to verse number 52. विवेक्तसेवी लद्वाशी यद्वाक्कायमानसः ध्यानयोगपरो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रिताः. So this verse translates to living in solitude, eating little, speech, body and mind controlled, ever engaged in yoga of meditation, endowed with dispassion. So let's take this up word by word. Vivik Sevi is living in solitude. Ladvashi is eating but a little. Yat Vak Kaya Manas. So Vak is speech, Kaya is body, Manas is mind, Yat is control. So Yat Vak Kaya Manas becomes speech, body, and mind controlled. Dhyan Yoga Par, that means then you are engaged in the yoga of meditation. Nityam ever, Vairagyam dispassion, Samupashrita is taking refuge in. So, living in solitude, eating little, speech, body and mind controlled, ever engaged in yoga of meditation or taking refuge in that yoga of meditation and endowed with dispassion. So, let's chant it together. विवेक्तसेवी लद्भाषीः यत्वाक्कायमानसः ध्यानयोगपरो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रिताः. So we are talking about another five values. These values enable us to live without attachment and with our senses controlled without identification with objects and beings. Vivek Sevi, quietude or living in solitude. So the seeker is silence the mind. So the mind is focused inward and is resting on the essence, which is that God, and the intellect is set on the goal, on the highest goal. So the God or God is companion of such people. So they are happy with themselves. The seeker, such a person never feels lonely and has really no need of company for the humans. The person prefers solitude and continues reveling in the relationship or in the contact with the essence, God. Also, this is a great opportunity or time for the seeker to evaluate one's own actions. And that is what we have to really work on. And once we are able to objectively evaluate our own actions, we are able to improve ourselves. The point is, we should always ask, why do we prefer company? Why do we have the need to go out into the world? We feel lonely, right? That means we are not self sufficient. We lack self sufficiency, or we are unable to be with ourselves for long periods of time. That means the moment we are left alone, we start feeling a void. A wise person, on the other hand, is just the opposite, is self sufficient, is strong and content with and happy with himself or oneself, and rests in that Paramatman or God. And therefore the person is happy being in solitude, is actually much more content and happy being in solitude as opposed to contacting the transient, fleeting, temporary world with its limited set of pleasures. Here, when one is within oneself, one is contacting that eternal bliss. It does not imply that the person hates people. What it means simply is that the person is not seeking people. It's okay if they come, if someone drops by, says a hi, it's good, doesn't, it's fine. And you may recollect verse number 3 of the Dhyan Yoga chapter, that for a seeker who wishes to master yoga, action is said to be the means. That's what we just did in 47, 48, 49, 50. For one who established in yoga, quietude is said to be the means. Ladvashi, eating little, light food. And again, verse number 16 of chapter 6, yoga is not meant for those who eat too much or do not eat at all, nor for ones who sleep too much or does not sleep enough. So, implying that a moderate and regulated life is required for a yogi. And as the seeker advances spiritually, the person indulges less and less in sense objects. Because we are disciplined in our eating habits, either eating unhealthy food or too much of food or wrong kind of food, it affects our body, which houses our mind and intellect. On the other hand, grueling fasts again affect our body adversely. So that means we have to be regulated in our eating habits, regulated in our sleeping habits. I mean, so one can go through that chapter. I'm sure you will have your notes. And if not, if you don't remember, I would recommend that you start reading it now to prepare for just sitting for meditation. Okay. Now, eating is an intake, right? It also implies other, all sensual intakes. So, color and form for the eyes, sound for the ears, smell for the nose, taste for the tongue, touch for the skin. So, we must analyze, check the quality and quantity of these intakes and regulate our intake of these sense stimuli. This also extends to the intake of feelings and emotions by the mind and thoughts by the intellect. To refrain from gossip, indiscriminate indulgence of emotions, and you may recollect the Socrates rule of three, which was mentioned some time back. And so the person's introverted nature checks external indulgences automatically. Then we come to the word yat vak kaya manasah, or speech, body, and mind controlled. The body comprises of the organs of perception and organs of action, and the grossest manifestation of the mind is actually action, what we are doing. And to control action is actually to discipline the mind. The mind is disciplined when it functions integrated with the intellect, and the gross body works under its command. So now the body, mind, and intellect are in unison. So again, we are talking about speech only in this word, but speech implies all organs of action, the karmindriya, and their functions. And the body is representing all organs of perception, the gyanindriya, and their perceptions. And these were the 12. How to regulate these and direct them towards God was covered in the 12 yajanas of chapter 4, the Gyan Karp Sannyas Yoga, or the Yoga of Renunciation of Action and Wisdom. The core of the chapter was the verses 25 to 30. And unless these two sets of organs are controlled, the mind cannot be subdued, and then we cannot sit and meditate, because an ill prepared mind cannot meditate. Right? Then we use the word dhyana paro nityam, ever engaged in the yoga of meditation. So, yoga, the root is huge. It literally means to unite. Unite to what? To that which we are disconnected from, which is our own essence, happiness, bliss. That is our true identity. It is a natural state. Yet we don't feel that we are eternally happy or blissful, because we are covered by vasanas and desires. So the natural blissful state is polluted or corrupted by the vasanas and desires. The point being that this is the corruption of the state, of the normal blissful state. See, the normal state of the body is healthy, to be healthy, right? The moment we become unhealthy, we try to fix the problem. How? By removing the ailment, right? So then we go to the doctor, and the doctor is actually removing the disease from the body, which is ailing the body. Similarly, the Atman is covered by these desires, which are actually corrupting the body. So the idea is to remove the desire so that we reach our eternal blissful state. And how do we do it? It is through yoga. That is the technique, through union with the self. We want to reach that state which is a natural state. The body want Just as the body wants to be healthy under all circumstances, similarly the Atman wants to be ever united with that Paramatman, and we will continue to want this state till the time we reach it. Now, efforts at the body, mind, and intellectual levels to unite and merge with God are what are called yoga, which one just mentioned. Karma yoga, the path of action at the level of the body; bhakti yoga, path of devotion at the level of the mind; and jnana yoga, path of knowledge at the level of the intellect. These practices of karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga help us in our own purification. And essentially, what are we doing is we reduce our desires through these, in and through these practices, we are reducing our desires, withdrawing from the world to gain equanimity so that we can focus on the Supreme Self. And it is only a controlled mind that has the capacity, the capability to contemplate on God. So we reach our original state of absolute peace and bliss by controlling uh, or ourselves. So, detaching from the world of sense objects and resting it in a steady flow on the contemplation of the Lord is meditation. And this practice should be constant and unswerving. And this we have been reading through the Bhagwad Gita, through all the chapters. And this makes us a true seeker attuned to the Paramatman, while the person perceives, acts, and functions in the world. Then Vairagyam Samupashritah, that means endowed with dispassion. So, when we are materialistic in nature, we will find pleasure in the world and its people. One who's done the course correction and is moving inwards is no longer an extrovert, is started on the inward journey. For such a person, the world holds no attraction. It does not mean that the person is inactive. The person performs his or her obligatory activities and moves on, just as an actor acts on the stage. So the person could be playing a king in one play, could be playing a murderer in the other. The role is not taken home. The actor performs the part to the best of his or her ability. So, to that extent, the person is dispassionate, and similarly, we are dispassionate. It does not mean that we run away from the world. It is just that the world does not tantalize us anymore. And with intellect aligned with Paramatman, that is the only value or system that exists for us, that Paramatman. So, these are the 5 values that we have discussed in this verse. So, total of 9 qualities so far. Let's move on to verse number 53. अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं परिग्रहं विमुच्य निर्ममः शान्तो ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते. So, freed from egoism, power, arrogance, desire, anger, covetousness, mindness, being peaceful, one is fit to become Brahman. So let's take this up word by word. Ankar, Ankaram is egoism, Balam, power, Darpam, arrogance, Kamam is desire ridden or desirous, Krodham, anger, Parigraham, covetousness, Vimuchya, having freed from, Nirmamah is without mindness, Shantaha is peaceful, Brahm Bhuyaya, capable of becoming that Brahman or God, Kalpate is fit. So the verse translates to freed from egoism, power, arrogance, desire, anger, covetousness, mindness, being peaceful, one is fit to become Brahman. So let's chant it together. अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं परिग्रहं विमुच्य निर्ममः शान्तो ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते. So we covered the last set of 3 qualities here, and these qualities are not new. In this chapter, there is hardly anything that we are doing we are doing for the first time. It is a summary of the entire Bhagwad Gita of the previous chapters. So now, chapter 12. Can anyone name what was the name of the chapter? Chapter 12.
Sorry, I don't recall.
Bhakti Yoga. So we had talked about the 35 qualities of the Bhakta, chapter 13, and the verses that was covered there. And then we had talked in chapter 13, which was the Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhag Yog. We had talked about the 20 qualities of the Jnani. And in chapter 16, that was the Dev Asur Sampad Vibhag Yog, we had talked about the qualities of the divine persons. These were verses 1 to 3. So it's the same qualities actually which are coming again and again in front of us, and maybe different words, but basically they mean the same thing. So here, what the first set of qualities that come our way is Vimuchya, which means totally freed from. So Vimuchya from Ahankar, egoism, Balam, power, Dharpam, arrogance, Kamam, desire, Krodham, anger, and Parigraham is covetousness. So we are free from egoism. That means we are without I-ness, or we are egoless. Egoless means that we don't think we are the supreme. See, I-ness or our ego makes us feel that we are different from the rest of the creation. No one is better than me. I stand apart. I alone exist. I am the most important. The entire creation should be there to cater to me. So it, and of course the next result of this egoism is doership. So we feel that anything we do, I'm the doer, and we forget about the hundreds and thousands of people who have contributed to what I do today. Unlike our masters of yoga, the rishis and the sages and our gurus, in the Indian tradition, we always refer to ourselves as we. Why? Because whatever little knowledge that I possess today is not only my effort, it is all the people who have contributed towards that knowledge, all the people who had realized or had made available those great texts for me to read. Okay, today when I'm putting in the effort, it is to the extent of disciplining myself and sitting down for my studies and meditation. But the techniques, the knowledge has been transferred to me. So it is a sum total of all that has come to me through the various generations. Now, when we are ignorant of that Paramatman, then we start identifying with the body, mind, and intellect as ours. And we assume a sense of individuality and egoism. And with egoism, the remaining traits follow. Therefore, a true devotee is one who is bereft of this sense of I-ness, and there is no ego because everything is supported by the Lord. Nirmam is free from attachments or free from possessions, without mindness. So, possessions, nowhere are our scriptures saying that don't possess things. In fact, you may recollect the verse that I've been quoting very often from Ishupanishad, that enjoy what is given to you. It is, we are the consumers. So, enjoy. Possessions are not forbidden by the scriptures. We should have them, we should enjoy them. There is no restriction or limitations on our possessions. Nowhere do the scriptures say that you should have X amount of gold and X amount of air and X amount of Y amount of something. The only attribute that the scriptures are repeatedly telling us to drop is our mindness, our possessiveness towards them. And even when I say that I'm having a session on this, I'm having a Zoom session, how much of it is really mine? I just connect through internet service provider, which again is not mine. I've just paid for it, and I use this facility to connect to other people. The other people connect through that same application. So what is mine in that? The technology, the equipment, the applications? It's only the money that I purchase. And even the money that I have earned, I mean, I have earned this money through the support of many other people. Hundreds of people have contributed to what I have earned. And this is what we forget when we say that this laptop is mine, this house is mine, this vehicle is mine, this state is mine. We just seem to forget all that. So the true seeker is convinced of two things, that everything in this world is God's, and the devotee is also part of that God. So there is no existence outside Paramatman. So with this kind of an attitude, the person, loses all sense of mindness, and there's no sense of possession or mindness, because everything belongs to God. And this is exactly what verse number 1 of Ishopanishad says, which is Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yatkinch Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitaha Ma Gridha Kasa Swidhanam. Then the next quality is Shanti or peace, which is a natural consequence of the previous values, because then you have inward balance and intellectual poise, ability to maintain and retain inner equilibrium despite the fluctuating or vacillating external situations, rising above the pairs of opposites. And this happens because we take the ultimate support in that Paramatman. So the 12 qualities are covered, and through these qualities, we are able to end our vasanas, exhaust our vasanas, and not build upon them. So we escape the cycle of birth and death. And these divine qualities also qualify us to sit in the state of, to move on that journey towards God. It's like saying that you can only do a PhD in mathematics if you have the fundamentals of mathematics. If you know the mathematical constructs and equations and formulae and so on and so forth, that you can think of doing a PhD in mathematics, just as you can do a PhD in English only when you understand the English grammar, or in any language's grammar for that matter. It's only then that you qualify to move ahead in that journey. So, these are the divine qualities that provide us with complete liberation. So, with that, we will end our today's session.